Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Intuitive Catalyst podcast. I'm Leilani, your host, and today we are joined with the divinely badass Kristina Knapp. Kristina is the owner and CEO of Elixir Media Co. She's a force of nature who went from flipping failing Michael Kors stores to owning a six-figure marketing company in 5 years. Her specialty is working with women CEOs to identify what makes their business unique and using that as a strategy to make them stand out in their industries. She shows women how to navigate social media with authenticity, ease, and fun. And we get into this a bit in the episode, but full disclosure, Kristina is my cousin, so we go way back. I'm so excited for the work that she does. She has an amazing story of coming up into this place that she is as a successful entrepreneur. And she's also in a space of navigating her intuition and understanding the role that her intuition plays in her business and her life and her family. And so if you are somebody who is in that part of their journey, whether you're thinking about switching careers or switching jobs or starting your own business and you're just beginning to think through the role that your intuition plays in that, then this conversation is definitely for you. So it's time to grab your tennis shoes if you're going for your walk, or find your cozy spot, your blanket, your cup of tea, and enjoy this conversation with my cousin and dear friend, Kristina Knapp. Hi, Kristina. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. Y'all, I'm just going to be straight with you. This is my cousin, and she's amazing. Hey! Oh my gosh. It's so funny because we've known each other, since we were very
whole life. Yeah.
Your whole life.
My whole life.
And we used to live in the same city for a while as kids. So Kristina and I go way back. We're like OG. We go way back. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course.
I am so grateful you're here. And I'm just going to start with the question that we start with everybody, and we'll get right into it. So who are you? What is your big work in the world? And how do you source from your intuition to do that work?
Yeah, so my name is Kristina Knapp. I'm the CEO and founder of Elixir Media Co. And we help women entrepreneurs create fun and ease while they build their business online strategically. How I use my intuition. I spent, I think, 90% of my life trying to ignore it. And now it's my number one go-to. Even when 99% of things make sense to choose A, if my intuition and my gut tells me to choose G, it's G 100%. So everything, I guess.
Yeah. And tell us, what does it look like for you? How does your intuition show up? Because everybody is on a different path. Everybody's intuition looks different. So what does it look like for you when it does show up?
Yeah, differently at different times in my life. I think consistently it's that my gut and my heart telling me very, very straightforward answers of this is what it is. And I don't really know if this is my intuition, but I know that sometimes I see things, and sometimes, I'm talking to people and I just hear so clearly things that I should say that have absolutely no sense that I should know these things. And only until recently have I started to share those things, and they're always spot on with who I'm talking to. But I think one thing I'm really excited about, with this next phase of my life and the rest of my life is diving into it more and not being afraid of it. Because I think, I was very, very, very afraid of it for so long.
So yes, that's your intuition. So the hearing things and the seeing things. I was just, as you were talking, I was kind of connecting with those moments that you're describing. And yeah, your guides are like, yes, that is your intuition and you get to trust it. And I love having you on. I know it probably feels super vulnerable because I know you're still on a path to understanding and trusting your intuition. And there are so many listeners who are there too. So your courage and sharing your story and your path and all of that, like we need you. We need to hear that. And as somebody who's still in her, like, I mean, we're all in process, we're all in our evolution, right? But you are, and I see you doing this. We're just diving in. Like, I see you doing this in your company where you're like, okay, that works, that doesn't. And it's just so refreshing as somebody who historically has been really afraid of your intuition to start to lean into it. So thank you for being here and for sharing some space and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited and nervous at the same time.
Oh, well, which makes sense. I mean, especially, so I'll just say in the world that we live in, hearing you say I've been afraid of my intuition, that is so normal. It was also true for me. I mean, I remember being a teenager, like curled up in bed and sensing the spirit. There was a spirit in my room and I was like, oh my God, like this is so terrifying.
Yeah.
And that's like an extreme example of being afraid. But then I see so many people in my life, who I know are deeply intuitive, who choose not to follow their intuition. And then because they're like, this is unknown, what if I'm wrong? And it's just so normal. So thank you for trusting your intuition, for being brave and just saying, you know what? So I'm just going to follow this and not really know where that's going to lead. It's really, really brave. And I think that in the world that we live in, if more people decided to do that and just said, look, like, because I know your story, you can tell us a little bit more. Maybe we'll start there. So you weren't always an entrepreneur. You worked in a company. I remember you telling me. So tell us a little bit about what brought you to, because you are like killing it as an entrepreneur now, but what led you there? What did your path look like?
Gosh, my path. I think with most people, it's, you know, I never could have planned it, right? It's literally like I made one decision and that felt good and exciting at the time. And so I said yes, and that led to another decision. And that's how I got where I am now. But I think for business specifically, like I really fell in love with the business side of how everything works. Now 13, how old am I? 15 years ago, I started working for Michael Kors, and I started out as like, you know, some part-time sales associate and very quickly worked my way, you know, up the more corporate ladder. And by the time I was 21 years old, I was flying to underperforming stores, you know, on the East Coast and flipping them into top performing stores in the country. And I, you know, again, very young, making more money than I knew what to do with, and just had this really like breakthrough moment. I remember I was at the W in Atlanta, sitting on the bed, like surrounded in, you know, shopping bags of, you know, Louis and Chanel and Gucci. And I remember sitting there and just bursting into tears and had this overwhelming sense of, okay, I've hit all the notches, right? Like, great job. I'm jet setting. I'm making all this money. And I was so incredibly lonely. And I felt like I didn't, like my soul was empty, you know, that I just knew like this can't be it, right? Like this, you know, measurement of success, like this isn't right. So I quit. You know, like I gave a 2-week notice, you know, I am professional, but I called up my boss and she was just like, are you sure? You know, is there anything I can do to make you stay? And I said, no, like I need to figure out what my purpose is. And so I left there and I went through like, you know, good old hippie phase, didn't wear shoes for like a year and a half, which really fucked up my back. Like, tremendously. And I went back to school for economics, and I was determined to figure out a way that you could make a significant impact with third world countries to bring them up. like, how do you do that? And so, yeah, I was going to school for that. I graduated, and then I had, a botanical garden reach out to me, and they said, "Hey, we've heard about the work that you did at Michael Kors. Can you come and flip our business for us?" And I was like, well, yeah, sure, I guess, I'll do this for now. And so I did that there, and we were really successful. We made them a lot of money. And then I kind of got to the point where I said, well, fuck, I'm kind of done making everyone else money and working my ass off. And yeah, and then Elixir Media Co was born, and that was 6 years ago now. And started like everyone else, like a solopreneur, just charging the bottom line and happy to have work, to now we have an incredible, like, absolutely amazing, the best team that there is. And we're all full time, and yeah, we're just rocking and rolling, traveling the world.
I feel like most people, I would assume, or at least maybe not, I don't want to make assumptions, but I know for myself, I was in that. I mean, I didn't have Gucci bags and all that mess like surrounding me, but I did work in a corporate space where I remember sitting at my cubicle doing this HR leadership role, and it was kind of surreal, because what I was seeing was people walking around me in like grayscale. Like it was like everybody kind of like, we're here because we're supposed to be here. We're here because we have families to feed, or we have rent to pay. And I just remember thinking, like, this can't be it. This can't be what is aligned with my soul, with my spirit. So I really resonate with that. And it took me like several years to get to the point. And I also was hearing intuitive information that was like, be still, don't leave just yet. And I had more impact. I didn't realize at the time I had more impact to have in that company. And I think that's such a common story for people. And we see that now, right? Like we see the Great Resignation and everything that's happened over the last few years with the pandemic and the like social justice uprising and all of that. And people are kind of saying like, no more, like I had a conversation with somebody who I met through LinkedIn yesterday, and we were basically saying like the companies, the organizations that used to have all this power over people and labor and like kind of could get away with whatever the fuck they wanted, they don't have the power anymore. They don't have the same power that they were having with this kind of command and control and saying like, no, you do what I say because I pay your bills. I pay your, I give you your paycheck. And it's just not, it's not resonant anymore. Like so many of us are like, no, it just doesn't work for me anymore. And that's what it sounded like for you, was like, this ain't it. And I've been through that. And a lot of the earth angels that I support, so the intuitive folks that I'm supporting one-on-one, a lot of them have quit their job. Like, they're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize that this was an option to just kind of like check out.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's been one of the biggest lessons I've learned in the last year is, even now, 6 years in, I find myself sometimes doing things a certain way. And I don't realize that it's just the only way I've ever been shown. So there's an infinite amount of options of ways to do things. And I think especially too, we do marketing coaching. That's what we try to do differently, is that, we don't come from a place of this is the one way to do it, right? This is the one way to make money, and this is how you talk. And if you don't talk this way, then that's why you're not successful, right? Because there are so many voices, I think, that are saying that as a whole, yes, in the corporate world, but honestly, in the entrepreneur world as well. And what I love bringing to the table is saying, hey, here's what I've seen a lot of success with. And now, like, let's figure out what works for you, and let's figure out what feels fucking good and what lights you up. And like, that's that's really the only type of work that I'm interested in doing anymore. Both, I mean, I guess with work, but also like in my life. Yeah, because why the fuck not? You know?
We, it's so on point. And when I think of, I mean, that's your intuition speaking to you, basically saying like this passion, this where my creativity leads me, where my interests lead me, that is your intuition. And I think that we often get to a place where we begin to like tamper that. Like we have to like, oh, well, I can't be an artist, or I can't write a book, or I can't like learn the guitar because I don't have time for that, or that won't make me money. Like how many times have I heard, intuitive folks say like, well, I can't start doing that. Like I won't make any money. And it's like, we've got it backwards if that is the reason why we don't follow what our intuition is screaming at us, which is like, this is important to you on a soul level. Mm-hmm. So that's what you did. And I know you started by yourself, and now you have a team of how many?
Yeah, 6.
Yeah. So you have a team of 6. You're like doing the thing. And what I also know is you grew very fast, very big, very quickly. And I think you reached a level where it was like, oh shit, like this is a lot. So tell us about what happened and what was the role of like, just tell us what the burnout. I know I think at one point you experienced burnout.
At one point.
I mean, tell us about the burnout and just tell us what happened.
Yeah, it's because I really bought into the hustle culture. I really bought into the like, if you want to make it, then it's got to be first. I kind of see it now as it's kind of like, this is a contract that I signed unknowingly. I watched my parents build themselves from nothing, and to a really incredible level, and to do it too, not being entrepreneurs is wild, absolutely wild to me, because they went from, I was just talking to my mom. I was sitting in this, they just built a, over 7-figure house on a golf course, and every single thing in it, including the couches to the floors, every piece of tile was custom made. And I was like, can you believe that, 35 years ago, you were living in a garage, you couldn't go to the hospital pregnant because you couldn't afford the bills, and you couldn't afford blankets. And so you were wrapping, my sister in towels. And it's just like, it was so crazy to me, but I saw money being made one way. And I saw it being made through sacrifice and through hard work, and really making work a priority over everything, and so I thought that that's how you did it. And so that's how I fucking did it. And dear God, I laugh when you say you felt burnout one time. I'm like, oh girl, I've lived in burnout. There, especially the first few years in business, I was working eyes open to eyes shut, and to be quite frank, I wasn't, in the beginning, I couldn't get past 40 grand a year. Like I was working that hard, and I just couldn't see why. And I think, over the next 3 years, it's really, what's unfolded for me is, I was living so much in my masculine, to be honest. I was living so much in my masculine, and prided myself as the action taker, and really tied my self-worth to things like sales, things like, the amount of money in my bank account, things like especially productivity, even when I wasn't working. And that was kind of the default that I learned from my parents. And so I think when I realized this fully and saw it for what I was, and realized, okay, I'm going to kind of take these contracts that I signed, I was given, right, from my parents. I signed it unknowingly. I took them, I metaphorically burned them and said, okay, well, how do I want to do this? How do I want to feel? In life, I fucking love having fun. To me, there is no greater joy than fun.
I never would have guessed that from your Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's everything to me because yeah. And then I think the other layer to that has been ease. Before we make any type of decisions, before we create a new system for something, before we create a new workshop or even take on a new client, the first thing that we ask ourselves is like, how do we do this with ease? How do we make this the easiest thing we've ever done? And even having that shift in perspective has changed. I mean, it's changed everything for us with how we work, how we feel, and also the type of people that we attract.
We call this on the podcast. I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but we've certainly talked about the matrix, which is like this setup that we, again, like we've all kind of subscribed to.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to the movie where it's like, okay, there is like this surface that we're all kind of bought into, and like money matters and time and all of these things. What I hear you describing is like matrix metrics. So like my productivity, which is just like, what is that even? Like productivity is so subjective, right? It's like we're measuring productivity by like the actual hours that we're working. We're measuring it by the profits that we're making and all of that. And it's like, when we think of like these quote unquote matrix metrics, it's so messed up because we're leading with the wrong idea. And to your point, where you can kind of like decide, okay, this isn't how I want to work. And again, that's coming from your intuition. Like that's like your how is starting to, and has evolved into, I am going to have fun. And I hear you, say, I'm going to have fucking fun and I'm going to be in my fucking ease. Right. And that is a bold shift from the ways that, I mean, we are both Filipino, mixed Filipino. We grew up in military households, like being like having fun at work and being in your ease is so like revolutionary from the ways that we were raised.
Oh my God.
Right.
You should see. Yeah, you should see. I wish you were like present for the conversations me and my dad have. I
can imagine.
It is such a foreign concept. And I think that honestly, it's only been in the last 10 months that I think, especially my dad has like accepted, and that like, oh, this isn't just a hobby. You know what I mean?
A phase.
A phase. Yeah. And he's, he's definitely not to the point where he's taking my advice on having fun and having ease. I don't know if he ever will, but he's at least, he has one ear open to me now, I think. But yeah, it's truly, I think, unfathomable for them to understand. Yeah. And especially, he was just asking me because he's wanting to build his own business now. And so now we're having a lot of conversations. And, I was telling him that, I hire off of human design and I build my team off of human design. And he is just like, he just kept asking, he's like, what's the algorithm for this? He kept asking, what's the algorithm for this? There has to be an algorithm. Da, da, da. And I just was like, I don't know, Dad. All I know is it works. And that's enough for me. Like, that's enough for me,
So we haven't had
that trust.
Oh, say that again.
Oh, I just said it's like a trust, it's a trust in self.
We haven't had anyone on to talk about human design. And actually, as you're saying that, I'm like, we need to bring somebody on, but tell us a little bit about what's your type? You're a manifesting generator.
Manifesting generator. Same. Yeah. Same.
Of course.
Obviously I'm like partial, but I think we're the best.
So tell me about your type and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I'm going to do my best, to be honest. For someone who bases their entire team and hiring system off of it, I don't know as much as I should. But manifesting generators, I had someone explain it to me in terms of team building, like building a city, right? So there's the four types. Help me out, Lonnie. Like there's the four types. There's manifestors, projectors, manifesting generators, which we call mani-gens. And then there are
generators.
There's generators, and there's a fifth one that I know they're like energy workers.
Oh, I don't know if I know the fifth one.
They're only like less than 2% of the population. I can't remember what they are, but yeah, so basically if we were going to build a city, the manifestors are the ones to say, we should build a city, right? And they're like, oh, it'll be great. We should build it for fun. They have all these ideas, right? And then what happens is after they have these ideas, like manifestors got to rest. They are some resting motherfuckers, right? Like
I'm a resting bitch.
I really think you have manifesting energy. But yeah, so they manifest, right? And then they need a lot of rest. And then they kind of move on to their next idea, right? So then projectors come in, and these are kind of like your city planners, right? These are great people for like manifesting generators because they love systems. They love a fucking system, and they love figuring out how things work and what they need to make a project go, right? For me, these are my right hands in business. So they take the ideas from the manifestors and they say, okay, we'll make a city of fun. Well, sure, we'll have a bowling alley, but we also need, a post office, and we need a bank, and we shouldn't put the sewage right next to the sewer, right? They start figuring out all the things. And then, and then generators are the ones who come in, and they're the worker bees, right? They most of the time they like to niche down, they're good at specific things, but they're the builders, and they take things so literally. I've learned as being a leader, like they take it so literally. And then the manifesting generators, we're a little bit of both, right? We're a little bit of the like, oh, we have this great idea and we love rest, and we can also have like ups and down phases of being workhorses too. So
and then reflectors is the last one.
Reflectors, yeah. So they're the ones that come in and they're just like, ooh, I don't know, to kind of like zen out the city, we need to have a balance. So let's put this, the bowling alley near the water and this over here. So a lot of times I think they're like interior designers, again, energy workers, things like that.
It's so interesting when I think of myself as a manifesting generator, and I'm not super well versed. I do follow some on Instagram of the human design practitioners, but what you said really resonates with me, of like having these spurts of like really getting down to business. Like I remember when I was actually leading my consulting firm with like my DEI consulting firm, my contractor would be like, you have like spurts of like where she'll get like 20 emails from me, and she's like, oh, okay. So it's like I have these like little spurts of like work and build and want to begin to like put some of these ideas into place, and then I'll be like, and then I rest for like 2 weeks. It's like, it's interesting.
So you need a projector. So like with us, we have different departments within the company. And so usually the projectors are, they're the coordinators, right? They're great project managers. They're great. Like, hey, we're offering this new free content co-working hour. I need a system for this for people signing up. Oh, boom. Right. That part would have bottlenecked the fuck out of me if it was just me.
Oh,
but me knowing that like, oh, this is what I need. This is, what every individual on my team needs to be their best self. I've just found it insanely accurate. And also it really helps us run like a well-oiled machine and keeps everybody happy. Because I think having the same expectations all across the board, is, forgetting that we're all human beings.
And that we all, and so I'm, now we're talking about all the types. So StrengthsFinder is something that I have utilized a lot, and I am a practitioner of, and it makes me think of, this conversation makes me think of my maximizer strength. So, and maximizer, all that really means is that I can see where best to put people so that like the output of the whole is the most maximized. And if you are thinking about, running a team, it makes sense to put people where they are best suited, where their energy is most optimized. So, I mean, it makes sense. It's amazing that that's how you hire. That's so cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Now at first I played with it a little bit. And then once I saw the accuracy play out through every single part, how they showed up, their energy levels, how they write emails, how they, work on projects. I was like, okay, I'm not fucking around with this anymore. Like when people come on, like I need to know which human design you are. And yeah, and so I go in knowing, okay, this is the role we need to fill. This is the type of human design person I want for it. And again, it's worked incredibly well for us.
That's amazing. That's such an amazing frame. And I imagine that it would be really helpful in terms of like writing your job description. And when you actually go, it just seems to cut out so much noise. So tell us a little bit about what it actually looks like for you to rest. What does rest look like for you?
Yeah. So different things during different seasons, I had a bit of launch PTSD from, launching a course a couple years ago. And to be honest, it was such a horrible experience. I haven't launched anything since then, which is, you can sell very well without launching, but, just kind of craving like, ooh, I really want to have these, 6-figure months. So in order to do it on the scale I want to, a launch strategy works. It makes the most sense, right? Especially when I realized, oh, I'm just avoiding this because I had a bad experience. Like I could rewrite that story. So, so going into this launch period, I'm making sure to prioritize my rest because I know for a fact that energy is fucking everything. And I want to focus my energy on showing up, right? And on selling and converting, followers into new clients and audiences and things like that. So I've built, as something as I guess for us granular as a launch strategy, what rest looks like is making sure I get a massage once a week, right? For me, rest also means talking to my life coach weekly, just to make sure I'm not holding on to anything and I'm moving through things in a way that I'm really proud of. And it also means, some days working 4-hour days, just so that it's almost like I'm itching and crawling. Like I want to be in the office so bad so that when I am there, I'm just like, I have so much energy. It's, contagious. And it also looks like, I really want to take the month of December off. I just want to take it off and I want to go to a beach and I want to lose track of not only time, I want to lose track of days. And I just want to be so soulfully present with, with my husband and with my daughter and not think of anything in business. And, and a lot of times, it means me following through on my I call it like my decompressing time where 30 minutes at 3:30, every day, I go through 3 tasks that just help settle me down and settle my brain before I make that transition from, office life into home life. And of course, 8 hours of rest. That used to be a negotiable, which is a non-negotiable anymore. But yeah, I think again, in different season, it looks like different things. And being a manifesting generator, that works really well for me. One thing across the board doesn't suit me.
So the question that's coming through, because we do have a lot of listeners, I think, that are transitioning into this solopreneur space where it's like, I know that I have divine work that I'm not fully feeling optimized in my current role or whatever the case may be. And social media is such a huge component of allowing yourself to be seen as a new entrepreneur, as a solo entrepreneur, as a mompreneur, all of that. And so I am on a cleanse this week. I
Ooh.
deleted my apps because that's the only way that I won't get on.
No, I mean, fair.
I delete my apps. And so my question to you is, as somebody who, and that's a big part of your business, is like helping women create online presences and, you know, showing themselves, and the reels that you create are so beautiful and like badass. And so how do you balance rest and all of, speaking, you talked about like being really in the masculine. I feel like Instagram specifically and TikTok and all of these social media, it can feel very like in the masculine. Like there's times of the day that you have to post and there's metrics that we look at and all of that. Yeah. Like, how do you continue to balance the feminine, the rest, as social media being such a huge part of what you do?
Yeah. And I love this question because, part of my journey of realizing I was so much in the masculine, and really the damage I had done being so in my masculine, not just in work, but in my marriage, God, in my marriage, and really in every capacity possible. I've gotten to a place where I truly do have a really beautiful, balance, if you will, of that yin and the yin and the yang, and when I take on like one-on-one clients and we do business coaching, it's literally called MF in business coaching. And of course, me being me, everyone's like, motherfucking. And I'm like, yes. And it's that masculine and feminine balance, right? Of approach to everything that we do. So I think that the way that I approach it is like, we get to have both. We get to have the knowledge of the strategy and the algorithms and the optimized times and the, maximum reach. And we get to have that knowledge. And we also get to create space for what feels good, right? Like, one of the first questions I ask my clients is like, what feels so easy to you? Like, what feels like the easiest way possible that we could show up 1% more? Not 100%, not 50%, not even 10. I want 1% more. What would bring you 1% more pleasure in this moment? Is it opening a window? Is it drinking your green juice? Is it a beautiful dress? What would make you 1% more excited to do this? And we that's where we build off from. And the beautiful thing is that, we as human beings, and especially entrepreneurs, we don't do shit 1%. So naturally, if I open a window, I'm going to take off my jacket too. I'm going to take off my blazer, right? And then I'm going to, kick off my shoes. And suddenly I feel so much more relaxed and ease and therefore confident and more true to myself showing up. And I think when we can get to that place where we just feel like we are fucking oozing confidence and we're so fucking excited and we're so fucking passionate about how we can impact people's lives, like, no one cannot buy from that. You know what I mean? It's so contagious. And I think that's where I really see like the success of my clients with, okay, I have this knowledge, and yes, I have a few things scheduled out, and right now in the moment, this is the message I really feel like is coming through. And it creates this beautiful balance of structure and that like freedom, really, to just show the fuck up as whoever you are in the moment.
Okay. I'm like sitting here uncomfortable because I know you have been like kind of quietly coaching me about how I show up as well. And I've been trying to like show my face more and like get more, and so for me, it's like, it's so interesting. Like what you said, like showing up 1% more in your ease and your pleasure and your joy and your fun, that it all comes from your intuition. Like you wouldn't be able to access that 1% without quieting your spirit and saying, what the fuck? And this is the most I've said fuck in any of my episodes because hello. but what the fuck do I want in this moment? What do I want to experience? Who do I want to be? What is the work that I want to bring forward? It all stems from our intuition. And once we hear that, once we sense that, once we see the image of like what it is that, and maybe this is homework for me today, to sit in quiet stillness for 5 minutes to say, how do I want to show up on social media now that I'm on my cleanse? And then just do it.
Yeah.
Do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, the greatest thing about social media, about life, about owning our business is there's no way to really fail. There's no way to fuck up, right? We just get to, and I think allowing ourselves the space again to be human and to be messy and to let go of this like perfectionism that we feel like we have to show up in. Like, newsflash, it's fucking 2022. Nobody loves a perfect person. Like, that's just boring. Like we want messy and we want authentic and we want the truth. And people can smell the difference a mile away. So it's literally doing no one justice for you to, put yourself in this little box and think, oh, okay, well, this is who I have to be.
Right.
Like, you're going to soar and excel and magnetize your dream clients when you show up as yourself and you speak your truth and you share your passion with the world. That's the God honest truth.
You're amazing. We need you. Like, thank you for all of that. Thank you for that ass whipping that I needed in this moment. Which leads us to one of our last questions is, what is your bumper sticker? What is the one piece of wisdom that you would put all over the world if you could? And I'm sure there's an F-bomb in there.
Oh, God. I don't know. Maybe just that there really is no rules to this thing. There really is no rules to business, to life, to love. That's the thing that I think, the lesson that I keep having to learn over and over again and rediscover, and it always opens, it opens up the sky to where even the sky isn't the limit. And what a beautiful place to experience life from,
I love you. So good. I'm so grateful to have you on. This will be in the show notes, but let everybody know how they can find you.
Oh yeah, you can follow us on Instagram at Elixir Media Co. Yeah, that's really the best way.
Yeah, TikTok. You're on TikTok.
Oh God, yeah, you can find me on TikTok. I'm learning. I'm showing up imperfectly.
Well, thank you so much, Kristina. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Godspeed on your path to continuing to trust your intuition. We need you. And I love you. Thank you for being here.
I love you too. I love you.
Oh, friends, thank you so much for being here for this conversation with Kristina. There were so many nuggets, and I'm so grateful that she took the time to be with us today. I think the one piece that is really sticking out for me is this 1%. How can we tap into our intuition to create 1% more joy, 1% more pleasure? What could that look like, and how would that change our day? How would that change our existence? It feels like a pretty benign question, and yet as I sit with it, it also seems to have the potential to just create so much change in the way that I move through my day, or how I present myself in my marketing and social media strategy and all of that. So I'm grateful that she took the time to be with us. I hope that you got some nuggets. If you are looking to make changes in your work, I hope that it was inspiring for you to go after them, to just say yes to your intuition, to say yes to your interests and the things that are pulling you forward, your passions, everything, your curiosity. I hope that this was an opportunity for you to give yourself permission to begin to pursue those things. If you'd like to connect with Kristina, you can find all of her information in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find my information in the show notes as well. And I will take this opportunity to remind you to join us for our free workshop once a month. It's the first Thursday of every month. You can go to my website in the show notes to sign up for that free workshop. I would love to meet you. I would love to connect with you. I would love to know you and to support you in any way that I can. But for now, be still, my friends, and live into your impact. So grateful you're here, and I'll talk with you soon.